Imagine a debt so colossal, so incomprehensibly large, that it's about half the size of China's entire economy. A financial black hole hidden deep in the balance sheets of thousands upon thousands of local governments across China. 65 trillion yuan, about $9 trillion. That's not a typo. To put that in perspective, that's larger than the combined GDP of Japan, Germany, and the United Kingdom, all added together. And right now, at this very moment, it's ticking like a time bomb beneath the world's second largest economy. The question isn't if this bomb will explode. That ship has sailed. The real question is, when it does explode, will your savings, your retirement, your future survive the blast? To understand how we arrived at this moment, we need to travel back in time, back to the year 2008. While the United States was desperately bailing out Wall Street, China was preparing to launch one of the largest economic stimulus packages in human history, 4 trillion yuan. That's roughly $600 billion, an astronomical sum at the time. The mission was simple: keep growth alive, keep construction booming, keep the factories running, keep China moving forward. But here's where things get interesting. Beijing didn't spend that money directly. No. Instead, they told every province, every city, every county in China, build, borrow, grow, just make it happen. And so, provinces, cities, counties, they all became mini central banks, each one printing money in its own way. To do this, they created thousands upon thousands of shadowy financing vehicles. They called them LGFVs. LGFV, Local Government Financing Vehicles. Remember that acronym, it's important. Think of these LGFVs as financial puppet companies, officially off the books, legally separate entities, but in reality controlled entirely, completely, utterly by local government officials pulling every string. These LGFVs borrowed money from everywhere: state banks, shadow lenders, bond markets, anyone who would lend. And what did they build with all that borrowed money? Highways, airports, ghost cities, high-speed rail lines to nowhere. For about a decade, this strategy actually worked. China's economy roared. The world watched in awe. China's GDP soared to the heavens. Skyscrapers multiplied like rabbits. The world marveled at the Chinese miracle. But there was one little problem. The debt, it never, ever stopped growing. By 2015, economists began whispering warnings behind closed doors. Quiet warnings, polite warnings. By 2020, those whispers had become screams. Alarm bells were ringing, but few were listening. And then, in 2023, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, finally confirmed what insiders already knew. China's hidden local government debt had reached 60 trillion yuan. By 2024 estimates, this grew closer to 65 trillion yuan. So how does a debt bomb this massive, this catastrophic, manage to stay hidden for so long? Let's break it down. Mechanism number 1, creative accounting. And when I say creative, I mean borderline criminal. Here's the trick. LGFVs aren't technically classified as government entities. They're legally separate companies, which means their debts, all those trillions in debts, don't appear on official government balance sheets. It's like taking out a dozen credit cards in your cousin's name and then pretending you don't owe a single penny. Mechanism number 2, the land financing model. This is where things get really interesting. In China, local governments don't collect property taxes the way most countries do. Instead, they sell land. They auction off land use rights to developers. This generates enormous amounts of cash, mountains of cash. And for years, for decades, this system printed money. It seemed like the golden goose would never stop laying eggs. But here's the fatal flaw in the system. Land prices only go up if people keep buying land. And in 2021, China's real estate market, which represents about 25% of the entire GDP, including direct and indirect contributions, started collapsing. Evergrande collapsed, Country Garden collapsed, dozens of major developers gone, defaulted, bankrupt. Land sales plummeted off a cliff. Revenue streams, the rivers of cash, they just dried up. And suddenly, almost overnight, local governments couldn't repay their LGFVs. The music stopped. Mechanism number 3, the shadow banking system. This is where things get truly dark. When official state banks finally refuse to lend any more money, the LGFVs turn to the shadows. Wealth management products, trust loans, peer-to-peer lending platforms, all operating in the shadows. These shadow loans came with sky-high interest rates, short maturity dates, and absolutely zero transparency. It's the financial equivalent of borrowing from a loan shark to pay off your mortgage, to pay off your credit cards. Now imagine 3,000 local governments doing the exact same thing simultaneously for 15 straight years. That is how you get to 65 trillion yuan. 65 trillion yuan, a debt bomb, ticking, hidden, waiting. In August of 2023, something unprecedented happened, something that sent shockwaves through the entire system. Zhongji Enterprise Group, one of China's largest shadow lenders, suddenly collapsed. Just collapsed. This company managed around 1 trillion yuan in assets, and overnight it couldn't pay back investors. Panic spread through the financial system like wildfire. People started asking questions, dangerous questions. Then, in October, a small county in Guizhou province quietly defaulted on its bonds. Then another county defaulted, and another, and another. The dominoes were falling. By the end of 2023, several local governments and dozens of LGFVs across China had missed debt payments or entered restructurings. Beijing responded with emergency measures. They swapped short-term debt into long-term bonds, bought themselves time. They ordered state banks to roll over loans, extend deadlines, pretend everything was fine, keep the illusion alive. They injected massive amounts of liquidity in the banking system, printed money, kept the machine running. But here's the brutal, undeniable truth. You cannot refinance your way out of unpayable debt. In early 2024, economists at the People's Bank of China finally admitted what everyone feared. Many LGFVs, perhaps most, are now zombie borrowers, the walking dead of the financial world. They can't repay the principal. They can barely cover interest. They're dead, but they're still walking. They survive only because banks keep lending the money, hoping desperately that the problem will disappear, but it won't. So, what happens when this bomb finally detonates? What happens to all of us? Scenario 1. Controlled implosion. Beijing orchestrates a managed default, writes off trillions, takes the pain. They recapitalize the banks, accept slower economic growth, keep the damage contained within China's borders. The pain stays domestic. The world watches nervously from a distance. Markets wobble, but recover. Scenario 2. Contagion. This is the nightmare scenario, the one that keeps policymakers awake at night. Defaults spread like a virus. Confidence collapses. Bank runs begin. People rush to withdraw their life savings. China's currency weakens dramatically. Capital flees the country. Global supply chains fracture and break. Manufacturing costs spike worldwide. Inflation resurges across every continent. Everyone pays the price. Scenario 3. The bailout. Beijing prints money, lots and lots of money. They monetize the debt, turn 65 trillion in local borrowing into central government liability, print it all away. The yuan plummets in value. China's credibility as a financial superpower evaporates overnight. The US dollar strengthens temporarily, but global trade contracts sharply, a Pyrrhic victory at best. No scenario is painless, because when the world's factory collapses under debt, everyone pays the price. History teaches us one lesson over and over and over again, but we refuse to learn it. Debt crises don't announce themselves politely in advance. No, they erupt suddenly, violently. Japan's lost decades, the 2008 financial crisis, the European debt trap. We've seen this movie before. Every single time, the warning signs were visible, flashing red, screaming for attention, but ignored. Every single time, leaders stood on podiums and insisted, "This time is different. We've learned our lessons." But it's never different. The patterns repeat. The cycle turns. History rhymes. China's 65 trillion yuan debt bomb is real. It's not hidden anymore. It's sitting in plain sight. And whether it explodes tomorrow, next year, or 5 years from now, the tremors will reach you. Your portfolio, your paycheck, your retirement, your children's future, nothing will be untouched. The question isn't whether you should care. The question is, are you prepared for what's coming? So, here's my question for you. Think carefully. When China's debt bomb explodes, what collapses first? The yuan, the global supply chain, or trust in fiat money itself? And if this video opened your eyes to something you didn't know before, share it, spread the word, because the people
who ignore history are always the ones who lose the most when it repeats.